Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The current Warzone meta obviously has a ton of very competitive options, several of which have insanely fast TTK stats. There's also some sleeper weapons that have some incredibly fast TTK stats, and today I wanted to highlight those weapons with the best time to kill stats as of right now, because we have seen a couple of different meta updates drop as of late. There's a few ones here that are certainly, not surprising at all, and there's a few that I don't think a lot of players realize are as good as they are. So we're starting here first with a bit more of an obvious one, but the MK35, one of our new weapons in the Season 3 Battle Pass, is an absolute beast. This thing's TTK is not only on paper one of the fastest, but in execution as well. Statistically speaking, at 50 meters, it's got a 645 millisecond TTK. All these TTK stats are courtesy of COD Community. What makes this thing so good, though, is that oftentimes on paper, including some of the ones we'll talk about in this video, the TTK stats are insane, but in execution, because you have to factor in accuracy, it doesn't always translate. This thing is so accurate, though, that it translates really well. So as far as the setup goes here, first up, I really like the hover point elo on here. Really factors into it being a laser accurate with that better recoil stabilization on there. Plus, it's just a clean optic. Monolithic suppressor, better range, better velocity. It's going to keep us off the radar, of course. All pros there. The control barrel also making this thing incredibly easy to use, plus we get better velocity. So a 1255 velocity, a 43 meter effective damage range, and a 58 meter second damage range. Really strong stats there for a mid to long range build. The convergence foregrip on here for the better bullet deviation and vertical control, again making this thing even easier to use. So like, you point and shoot with this thing, you're landing shots on target. Lastly, extended mag 2, pretty straightforward, a 60 rounder for all squad sizes. This though, for being one of the easiest to use weapons in the game, usually that would mean that it's not going to have a crazy fast TTK. This is an outlier though, where it's doing both at the same time, and it's nuts. Next up, maybe a bit of a surprise, but the MCW from MW3 with the Jack Raven kit, an ideal sniper support loadout at 18 meters when you're fighting that close range, that mid range, some a 600 millisecond TTK, which is about as good as it gets at that range. Plus, this thing's actually surprisingly easy to use and pretty aggressive for a non-BO7 weapon. Might take a little getting used to just because it's not a BO7 gun, so there are some behavioral things going on with it that don't make it like a BO7 weapon, but it's still plenty usable and very competitive if you know what you're doing with it. So here, first up, the most important part of this entire setup is this Jack Raven kit. Throwing that on as an aftermarket part, this turns the MCW from a very mediocre rifle into something that is so good in the close range. Now, I do like the Night Model 2023 optic on here. I've pretty much always used this on the Jack Raven, dating back to MW3 Warzone and throughout BO6 Warzone and now BO7. It just works for me. Shadow Strike suppressor, better velocity, better range. Basically, all the suppressors are going to be doing that. We got a 547 velo, which is okay for sniper support. Then also that 22 meter effective damage range with that fastest TTK. Jack Slash on here for some better vertical control and some better movement speed. So best of both worlds there. Then also the 40 round extended mag, that is the max option here with the Raven kit on there. So don't be sleeping on the Jack Raven kit. This thing is still surprisingly good. And keep in mind, as we are going through all the weapons and builds here today, if you guys enjoy the video, you find this information helpful, do me a favor, drop a like. It's a great way to help grow the channel, and share the video around to new players and new viewers. If you guys happen to be a new viewer, maybe you have not subscribed yet, we should change that. I always got you covered with everything going on in Call of Duty, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and of course turn on those post notifications. Next up here, another surprising choice. When I was fact checking some stats here, seeing if there were any outliers in any categories, the XM325 ended up standing out. This thing at 40 meters has a 660 millisecond TTK, which is surprisingly good at that range. And while this thing is a heavier, slower LMG, like most of them are, it's outgunning a lot at that range. And really, I used to pick this thing up and it's like, wow, this thing feels awful. I don't want the XM325. It kicks, it's clunky, it's awkward. With this setup on here, it's pretty consistent. I actually have been testing this out in game lately and it's feeling really good. So here yet again, I got that Fang hover point elo on there. Clean reticle offers that recoil stabilization. Monolithic suppressor to stay off the radar. We get that better velocity. We get that better damage range. I do like the control barrel here. Obviously, getting close to these TTK stats on paper is impacted so much by your accuracy in game. So the easier a weapon is to use, the better chance you're getting that fastest TTK. So this definitely helps out. Plus, we got an 1104 velocity. That 54 meter effective damage range is really solid and only has 2 damage ranges here in Warzone, which is kind of interesting. We have a default 60 round mag, which I think works fine with a 1000 RPM. So max horizontal control underbarrel makes this pattern more predictable. And then a quick draw rear grip on here just to speed up that ADS a little bit. 257 on an LMG isn't awful. So it actually ends up being decent in that regard too. This is a sleeper weapon. People are not picking up the XM325 that much, but Hey, maybe this changes your opinion. This thing can hold its own. Another sleeper weapon here, the PML 556, aka the Bruin 2.0 from BO6, I believe it was. This thing at 53 meters has a 686 millisecond TTK. Now, this one definitely has a little bit more noticeable recoil than some of the other options here, so the skill gap is certainly something you have to be mindful of. But if you spend time learning the gun, you get familiar with its recoil pattern and its behavior, it too can melt. So here, first up, I'm rocking that Oturo red dot. I use this a lot during BO6 Warzone. It's a pretty clean reticle, so I'm comfortable with that. As always, feel free to switch these out for whatever optic you are the most comfortable with. Monolithic suppressor for the range, the velocity, keeping us off the radar there. We got a 1068 velo, which ain't too bad, and an 84 meter effective damage range, which is pretty crazy there. Vertical foregrip for that max horizontal control to make that pattern a little bit more predictable. I like fast mag 1 on here. It's a 50 round mag. You get the faster ADS, the faster reload on here, and on a 645 RPM, 50 rounds is fine for all squad sizes. Lastly, recoil springs, free recoil control, never a bad thing to have on there, especially when this thing does jump a little bit, so that certainly helps out as well. An interesting build that, again, a lot of people just are not picking up, but if you know what you're doing with this, you can win a whole lot of gunfights. Hey everyone, real quick, wanted to give a shout out to my friends over at G Fuel. April is a very, very busy month for gaming. We've got updates dropping across Call of Duty, Battlefield. We've got a new map coming to Arc Raiders. If you are dropping into any of those, or maybe something else, and you're looking to stay hydrated and energized, look no further than G Fuel. And right now, I've actually got my own custom page on the website, gfuel.com/immortal, where you can check out all of my absolute favorites right now and get 30% off your entire order. So if you're interested in saving some cash and picking up some G Fuel, check out the link down in the description below. And then lastly here, another bit more of an obvious one, but a really fun one nonetheless, the Egert 17 at 30 meters. So like prime sniper support, prime aggressive gameplay if you're playing, you know, Resurgence or running and gunning on Verdansk or Avalon. This thing has a 592 millisecond TTK. So like for the close to mid range, this thing is surprisingly effective. And this build is really optimized for more of those like mid range gunfights here. It's going to be low recoil. It's got that clean iron sight as well. So for that playstyle, this thing really works. So here, first up, yet again, we got that monolithic suppressor pushing out that effective damage range even further. The velocity stats at these ranges where this build is meant for won't be a huge deal, but it's a nice bonus to have on there nonetheless. I also end up going for the hybrid barrel here. We got that 1185 velocity, a 45 meter effective damage range with that TTK is insanely fast, is very, very solid there. I find this weapon to be pretty easy to use, so I go for the mobile recoil foregrip, some horizontal control, and some movement speed. If you wanted to go all in on control, you could absolutely go for the deviation foregrip on there, or you could just go for the bow and sentry for max horizontal control. Either or will work just fine there. 60 round extended mag works fine for all squad sizes, and then once more, recoil springs on here just for some better control all around with no real cons there. So this thing definitely stands out as a top option for TTK stats as well. These are just 5 that I, was going through and fact checking, looking at the stats that really stood out to me. There's a lot of weapons in this game that obviously thrive in various different niche scenarios when it comes to time to kill. So just because a weapon's not on here doesn't mean that, it's got a slow TTK by any means, but these are 5 that I think are really fun standouts and competitive standouts as well. That is going to wrap things up though. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like on it. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you can stay in the know for everything going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.